Well, let's bring in two well-known Conservative voices now in this country who've been watching this drama unfold. Lisa Raitt is with us again tonight. She's the former deputy leader of the party and sat in caucus with many of the MPs who've passed judgment on Erin O'Toole today. And Tim Powers is a Conservative commentator. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here. Lisa, let me start with you. What is your reaction to the vote today and just how decisive it was against the continued leadership of Erin O'Toole?
Really surprised about how decisive it was. I was in contact with a former colleague of mine, texting back and forth as it was unfolding. So I had a good idea of how the speeches were going, and I understood the amount of anger in the room. But, you know, there was still support for Erin in the room. And when the vote came, though, it was clear that there wasn't that much support. I had thought that the room was equally divided, and at the very end, people just decided to vote with the folks who wanted to remove him from leader.
Tim, let me get your reaction to what we've seen unfold here today.
Well, I think there was a bloodlust for Erin O'Toole, as is obvious in terms of the results, but I think that's the wrong focus. But clearly, the caucus have chosen to go in a different direction, and they want a new leader. I will attest, and I think we widely agree on this. Conservative Party has a lot of other challenges: structural, narrative, brand, outreach. Erin O'Toole is the victim of maybe not getting enough done on that front. He's also the victim of expectations. Maybe he inflated them, maybe he didn't, that this party would win in 2021. And I feel for Mr. O'Toole. He's a very decent human being. It's a hard day for him and his family. And we are seeing again, Peter, that the worst job in Canadian politics is the leader of the opposition, particularly when that leader comes from the Conservative Party.
Yeah, and jobs are more fun when you, if you have the opportunity to move on and you quit them, as opposed to them quitting. So this is a tough day for Erin O'Toole. But Tim's touched on something here, Lisa. Yeah. You know, what's happened here for a lot of observers, I think, has underscored that split in the Conservative Party over which direction the party should take, and maybe in terms of how much power a leader should have to try and take it in different directions. So I guess I'm wondering, does all of this, what we've seen today, does it risk tearing apart again? Ending the 20-year history of the party created, in fact, to bring all Conservatives together. Is that at stake here?
I don't think so. And I'm going to echo Tim. I should have said thank you to Erin for his work as well. It's very true. It is a really tough day. And I'm thinking about him and Rebecca and Molly and Jack and as they deal with what comes next. But listen, I don't see a split. I think what I see happening was Erin, he ran on a set of policies that he said he held true to, modified them once he won. And I think that was the problem for a lot of the members of Parliament who disagreed with the change and felt that the change came on without him working it through the membership, which is what the caucus normally expects. But here's the thing: going into this new leadership race, people are going to have to lead with policy. They're going to have to be brave on what they're talking about. And at that point, we'll understand what direction the party is going in. This can't be about who's your favorite face to go up against Justin Trudeau. It has to be rooted in policy this time.
Tim, is the promise of a big tent Conservative Party dead?
I don't think so. But I think Lisa and I are on the same song sheet on this. People are going to have to give a good sense of where they want the party to go and how people fit in through that policy, through those ideas. You only need to look at when Conservatives have won. The most recent, Mr. Harper, and prior to that, Mr. Mulroney. There was accommodation for Conservatives of all different family and tribal background, and there were common values and common purposes. Lisa's right that maybe Erin didn't work enough through the party membership to do that, but it's concerning to me right now that the lens of the party by those who have sought and won the disposition of Erin seems to be narrower. Conservative Party doesn't win when it's narrow casted entirely to its base. Again, the last three elections are proof of that.
Right. So, Lisa Raitt, I mean, would say that Erin O'Toole was actually, and I've talked to some Conservative MPs who were put off by what they called Erin O'Toole's freelancing, but he said stated emphatically and openly that he was trying to grow it beyond the normal base, trying to reach out to those people. And that seems to be, in a lot of ways, what's caused a lot of the pushback. So, the focus is going to turn, as we've touched on pretty quickly, to a new leadership candidate. And a lot of people will be wondering tonight, well, who would want the job? And what do they have to know going in?
Well, there's going to be a lot of people lining up for the job. First of all, let's just get that straight. It's not, we don't worry about how many people are coming into the race. It's about how many people want to come into the race, quite frankly.
All right, Lisa's frozen there. So Tim, let me jump up to you to pick up on that, and we'll try and reestablish. Well, just to try and reestablish that link with Lisa Raitt. So Tim, weigh in on that. Why would somebody look at what's just happened to Erin O'Toole and say, okay, that's the job for me, and I know how to go about it differently?
Yeah, well, you would have to think twice about it. I think there will be a number of people who will put their hand up because it's the nature of politics, a competitive business, no matter how tough the opportunity is. I think the worst thing that could happen for the Conservative Party would the race would be limited to one or two candidates. That's not good. That's not helpful. But if you're going to put your hand up, you better understand you got a hell of a lot of work to do. You've got a caucus that is restless. You have a party that feels like it should have won the last 3 elections. And you do have a public that is looking for a different offering. And if you stay too focused, again, I'll say this, Peter, on the base and try and win the leadership, is what you often do, and then aren't able to convince the base to spread your wings further, Conservatives are going to find themselves in this cycle again of losing the next election.
All right, let's talk about some of the names. Who should we be thinking of? Some of them sort of are out there. Who should we be looking at as possible leadership candidates?
Well, we've already had Marilyn Gladu, a former brief leadership candidate. She had a brief tenure as in the last leadership race, saying she's putting her hand up. I think we'd all be surprised this time if Pierre Poilievre didn't enter the race. He's had some interesting positioning over the last couple of days on what he believes or doesn't believe about the Freedom Convoy. Does somebody like Michelle Rempel put her hand up? Other names I've heard, James Moore, who knows? Brad Wall, that name is a bit like the Frank McKenna name in the Liberal Party. It always comes forward. Don't know how Mr. Wall's French is. Does Peter MacKay re-enter the race? I think there will be a lot of interest. Caroline Mulroney is another name. But again, we always start this way, Peter. We give you a list of names, and ultimately very few of those names enter, and there are surprises when it comes to who puts their name on the ballot.
Right, but can a prospective leader of this party who may share some of the same views as Erin O'Toole, can another Conservative leader win this party with a view to winning the country, coming in with a plan to introduce some sort of carbon taxation, to talk about assault rifles the way Erin O'Toole did, or is that going to be shut down by a strong wing of the party?
I hope not. I mean, look, there are more moderate, I would describe them, new MPs who are in the fold. You've got Eric Duncan from the Cornwall area, Melissa Lantsman, who someday could be a leadership candidate herself, maybe a leadership candidate, openly gay, more moderate on social issues. Raquel Doncho. You have a young tier of Conservatives who assumedly want to be here and want to win government, who are going to push back on some of the pre-2015 era policies. And that's healthy. The Conservatives just have to be really careful, having been through this, as you know, for the last 20 years, of carving themselves into bits so that the only beneficiary of all this is their political opponents.
All right. So, what are you watching for in the days ahead here? We'll find out about an interim leader. There'll be a shaking out period here as the party sort of regains its footing. It's always a traumatic time when you lose a leader, but when the leader is ousted by the party, perhaps even more. So, what do you watch for?
Well, the initial positioning of people like Pierre Poilievre, Michelle Rempel, and others, who else may put up their hands. You'll remember last time, it was only such a brief period ago, there were people trying to get Jean Charest and others in as they're an interesting provincial candidate. So the phony war around candidacies I'll be watching for, the actual dates of when this will happen, how it will work. Mechanics, money, and date all matter because that will determine how seriously some people may consider entering this race. race, because as Peter MacKay is discovering as a former frontrunner who didn't win, if you don't win, it still can cost you a hell of a lot of money and time to sort it out. So all of those things are important in determining what the field may look like and where this may go. And I do hope that the Conservative Party, the interim leader, whoever is chosen, do bring some peace, accord, and balance and good judgment to the next number of months ahead. They don't need to create branding problems. They need to provide the same sort of stability Rona Ambrose did in her term as interim leader for the Conservatives right now.
Yeah, Rona Ambrose, do you think, is that someone who would look seriously at being pulled out of a
No.
life she's enjoying very much now to get back into all of this?
No, look, I'd be very surprised. I know Rana. I think she's, as you just said, very happy in her current world. I believe she thinks she's done her time. I'm sure she would be there to help whoever needed that help. But I don't necessarily see. I don't see Rona Ambrose entering the fold. And it would be good to have some of these younger candidates. Maybe there is a Melissa Lantsman or Raquel Dancho who put their hand up. I mean, they are the future of the party. Their voices should be heard in a leadership race like this one.
All right, Tim Powers. And before that, we had Lisa Raitt joining us, and Lisa's had a serious power issue, so we've lost contact with her, but thanks to her as well for joining us, at least for part of our discussion. Tim, good to talk to you. We'll talk again soon. Take care.
Thanks, Peter.